Welcome to Station, your go-to Blue Jays series recap show. Following a second series win on the bounce versus the Milwaukee Brewers, the Jays jetted off to Queens, New York for a 3-game weekend series at Citi Field versus the Mets. Could the Jays overcome Verlander and their star-studded squad? Stay tuned to find out more. Thank you for listening, and we hope that you enjoy. Station to Station, your Blue Jays series recap show. My battery mate today, Dustin on the mound. And also on our pitch comm today, we have Kreger joining us. Boys, a 3-game series versus the Mets. Tell me your feelings of from this past weekend.
Well, for me, I think that this was a challenging series. At least it seemed like it was going to be. This is a big team. They're in a similar spot as the Blue Jays, and so I thought it was a good test for them, especially given their recent success.
Yeah, like I said earlier, off air, it's just the fact that they were able to go into New York and sweep a team that's got a huge payroll. There's a lot of big names on this team, and the Jays were able to sweep them. So I thought that was remarkable. I didn't think they'd win the day actually with Senga on the mound because he's amazing. He's kind of like Bassett. He's got a million different pitches. He's got that famous ghost pitch that's unbelievable forkball. So, yeah, I was amazed they won today. When I went to 4-4, I didn't think it was going to happen, but Belt kind of saved us.
For sure, they definitely bent after taking a lead, but didn't break. All right, so yeah. Let's talk just about the Jays coming into this series. So they just came off of a 2-1 series win over the Milwaukee Brewers. They were 30-27 and fourth place in the AL East, and 9.5 games back of Tampa. So still less than double digits. Now, before this game, we have no roster moves. In our lineup in the outfield left to right, we have Varsho, Kiermaier, and Springer. Around the horn, third to first, we have Chapman, Bo, Witt, and Vladdy. Alejandro Kirk is our catcher, and Brandon Belt is our DH. Pitching matchup for this game, Chris Bassett versus Justin Verlander. Going into this game, I think this was kind of I expected a pitcher's duel, and it definitely was, Dustin.
Definitely. I mean, Bassett and Verlander are, two of the top pitchers in the league, and some of these games are fun to watch when two guys are just pounding it in there, and it's frustrating when it's your hitters, but it's just definitely satisfying when Bassett is putting up zeros.
So Bassett came into this game 5-4 with a 3.80 ERA and a 1.15 WHIP. He also, I guess, the story or the undercurrent of this game is his wife was in labor. Actually, she went into labor before the game even started. I think we have to tip our cap to him for being quite the professional because I don't know. I think anybody else probably would have lost focus maybe after the third or fourth inning, but he went deep into this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was so super surprised that he was just so sharp. I mean, when I heard that, like, oh, his wife is like gonna give birth any moment now, I'm like, oh man, he's got to be, thinking about that and just thinking about like, how am I gonna get there in time and yada yada. It's just, he's just, I guess that's a professional, sports pitcher. He's able to focus on the moment.
Just amazing. It was everything advertised. The pitcher's duel right down to the end, and it was like you said. I was just wondering who's going to break first, right? Like, and it ended up being Verlander. And yeah, it was remarkable because, Bassett had to catch a private plane back to Toronto because his wife was having the baby in Toronto. Just amazing. I mean, the guy's been fantastic since that, first game or two, where they had the pitch com problems and all that. So, yeah, just an amazing game, amazing opening game. What a performance.
So top first, Verlander gets this game underway at 8:41 p.m., a little bit later than usual as there was a rain delay. And George Springer, as Gregor, as you kind of mentioned there, who would break first? Well, it didn't take long for Verlander to break as George Springer hits a leadoff solo home run on a 1-0 count. And that is his 54th career leadoff home run, which ties him for second in MLB history. So George Springer, bit of a slow start, but he is definitely coming into form now when I guess the season is really getting underway. That inning ends 1-0. In the bottom of the third, Bassett gets into his first jam, and there's a single following that, a stolen base, an infield single, and Bassett really gets tested, but he finds a way to get out of it, basically getting a pop-up, a strikeout, and another infield pop-up to get out of that inning. I thought that was quite impressive to get out of a situation like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think, sometimes this game is just, really, I don't know, funny things happen. Like it's really impressive, some of the athleticism that you see out there.
Well, this game proceeds being 1-0 until essentially the ninth, but we do have a pitching change in the bottom of the eighth where Tim Meza comes on to take over for Chris Bassett. Chris Bassett's pitching line, 7.2 innings pitched, 3 hits, 0 earned runs, 0 walks, 8 Ks, and that was over 101 pitches. So another fantastic outing for Chris Bassett.
Yeah, I mean, it's just what he's been doing all year, right? Since about the first game, right? So, yeah, remarkable.
So the game is 1-0 going into the top of the ninth, as I mentioned, where Whit Merrifield gets on base with a single to right field, and then Dalton Varsho steps to the plate and crushes a 2-run home run to right field up into the second deck. This is a 3-0 count. Didn't really think he was going to swing, but I guess he saw a good high four-seam fastball that he wanted to take a bite out of, and he did not miss this ball at all. Second deck shot, and it seems like when he is actually connecting with the ball, which doesn't seem to be very often, when he connects, it goes far.
Yeah.
I really want to see him do good. We talked a lot earlier in the year about him being one of the guys that, I thought that the team would, or the fans would kind of gravitate towards, and he'd be kind of a likable guy, but he's had a lot of struggles here, and it's hard, I think, for some people to feel that for him. So it's good to see him get a couple of shots like this and really put the game away, and hopefully he can do a lot more of that in the future.
Yeah, I think Dustin's right. Like I had high expectations for Varsho coming in. I thought it was a good trade, in the off season. If you look at how many home runs he hit last year, he had a lot of pop last year, and so far, he hasn't done that well. I mean, you look at his average; he's just hitting over 2 bills and not a lot of home runs and a lot of ground outs and weak contact. So it's nice to see him do that, but it's just not happening often enough, right? Like it seems like unless he gets a certain pitch in his wheelhouse inside, that one the other night was a high inside. I think he likes belt high inside too, or low. But there's a lot of other pitches he doesn't seem to handle well, and I don't know. I've been disappointed with him overall so far. I mean, outfield wise, the guy's been fantastic. Like he'll go after anything out there, and he's he's an excellent outfielder. But I think he needs to get the bat going, right? Like,
Well, what I notice is, going through pretty much each game and every batter's offensive stats, like he does have decent games, but what I've noticed is he is the opposite of two-hit wit in
yeah,
that I don't think I've seen a multi-hit game from him in quite
yeah,
some time.
yeah.
And
Right.
when you're going, 1 for 3, 1 for 4, 0 for 3, 0
Oh,
for
for
4,
four, yeah,
it's that's really hard to get that average bumping up. You need multi-hit games to
yeah,
turn that tide. I do. Rob on a previous episode was talking about players coming from the National League to the American League, and I do think there's something there, and adjusting to especially the American League East and just the American League in general, a lot of power arms. Probably is getting pitched a little bit differently. He also, for the better part of the season, he also has been hitting cleanup. So,
Yeah.
um, and I don't think he's been hitting cleanup because of his offensive prowess. I think he's been hitting cleanup because they've been wanting to break up the lineup. And what I think is happening now, now that Brandon Bell has kind of shown himself to be a bit of a on base. He's kind of becoming a little bit of an on base machine um, of late because he walks a lot, seems to
yeah.
scatter some hits there. But I think what we're going to see is Brandon Belt in that cleanup spot. Uh,
Watch it happen today. Yeah, yeah,
Varsho,
Yeah.
and it happened over the weekend as well, Kreger. So
yeah,
Varsho is going to be down lower, and we've seen what happens when a player is lower in the lineup. Like Kevin Kiermaier has been hitting ninth all year, and it just seems like you get different pitches, and let's see if he turns the tide. I
yeah.
definitely I have a soft spot for Varsho. Like I
I
don't
do
know.
too. I
Yeah.
do too.
He's my height. I feel like if I was in the majors, this is the kind of player I'd want to be.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
He's a young guy. Like he kind of got that look of a little bit of a older guy, but he's I think 24, 25, something around there. So he's fairly new to the league, so he's got a lot to learn. And
yeah.
I think
Good point.
Craig said something that I think I heard somebody else talk about on the broadcast. I don't know if it was Ben Nicholson Smith or something like that, but they were saying basically he's got a hole in his swing somewhere. I
Yeah.
believe it was high and
Okay.
outside or high and in or something. And it seems like opposing pitchers are just kind of pounding him in that spot, and he's got to learn to adjust to that, how he's
Yeah.
getting pitched and find a way to get to those balls, and hopefully he can do that.
Yeah. I noticed a lot of ground balls. I'm not sure what his ground ball rate is. I'd have to look it up on Baseball Savant or something. But it seems every time I'm watching, this ground ball to first. He seems to be pulling the ball a lot and
Strikeout.
strikeout, ground out to first.
He strikes out a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I think one of the things about that home run that somewhat surprised me is like he has struggled with the high fastball, and I think people are picking up on that, so they're just feeding him high fastballs, and I don't think this pitcher figured he was going to take a cut on a 3-0 count, and he promptly deposited it in the
Yeah.
second.
Well, he smashed one in Minnesota when we were in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Toward the end of the game, the Jays, I think it was the second game in Minnesota, and Dave and me were sitting in right field, and he smashed that home run about 12 feet to my left in my row. And it just smashed off the aluminum seats and went flying to the left. And of course, King Dave, he can't catch a ball to save his life, so he just dove and ducked down. But he, and he had a shot at catching that. But that's another story. But that was Varsho. Yeah, that was just in Minnesota. He hit that dinger. But it was another pulled down the right field line home run.
Yeah, it seems like when he can time a pitch and get a good swing on it, he can get a lot on it. So, all right, so let's just wrap this game. It ends 3-0. This is the Jays' 9th shutout of the season. Winning pitcher is Chris Bassett. He is now 6-4, 3.14, 3.41 ERA,
Right.
and a 1.07 WHIP. Losing pitcher Justin Verlander, and our save goes to Jordan Romano, which is his 14th of the year. Game number 2 now. We do have a roster move that took place where Chris Bassett was put on the paternity list, and right-handed pitcher Jay Jackson was recalled from the AAA farm team. Our lineup for this game, across the outfield left to right, Varsho, Kiermaier, and Springer. Infield around the horn, third to first, Chapman, Bo, Witt, Vladdy. Alejandro Kirk is once again our catcher, and our DH is Brandon Belt. Pitching matchup for this game, the eclectic Jose Barrios versus Tyler McGill. Barrios comes in this game 5-4, a 3.86 ERA, and a 1.26 WHIP. Dustin, I think I can get used to Barrios pitching like he's been pitching of late. Another good outing.
Yeah, he's back to old reliable. I mean, it seems like this is kind of who he was before whatever it was that happened last year. So let's keep rolling. I mean, he's at least making up for the stinker of a season that Manoah is putting up.
Like he's hitting the spots now. His command's better. He's just been, yeah, like Dustin said, he's so reliable now. The last few games, like I'm not worried about him out on the mound there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And with Gosman and Bassett and then Barrios. I mean, boy, these guys are really rolling right now. So it was just another game where the Jays starters went pretty deep and kept the runs down to under 2 or whatever. They've been doing. I think I heard a stat. They're one of the top. They're if not the top team in keeping the runs down for the starters in the last little while. So I think it's like they have the most games of, I don't know, 2 runs or under or something like that.
Yeah, I think I saw something like that as well. Yeah, I don't remember the exact stat, but yeah, no, they've definitely been sort of doing that ideal sort of scenario of your starter goes 6 or 7, keeps it under 2 runs, and you go to the bullpen and you got fresh arms, and they've needed that with the way the schedule's been lately.
Oh yeah.
All right, so top of the first pitch is at 4:33 p.m. on Saturday, and we get our first run from the New York Mets in the bottom of the second, and they score 1 and are up 1-0. So the game proceeds as it is until the top of the 6th, where we have a Brandon Belt double, Matt Chapman walk, Witt and Varsho both fly out, and then Alejandro Kirk hits a RBI single, which Brandon Belt scores on, tying the game at 1. Bottom of the 7th, we have our first pitching change, where the aforementioned Barrios is removed and Trevor Richards takes over. Barrios' pitching line, 6.0 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run, and 3 walks. This is he's becoming Mr. Reliable, as you guys mentioned.
Yeah, not much more to say about him. I mean, this is what you want to see from your starter for sure.
Yeah, especially a guy that I think we've got him locked up for a few more years, right? So
until 2028.
Yeah, so it's nice to see the Barrios we sort of went out and got, perform like we expect them to. So that little blip he had there at the beginning of the season in the World Baseball Classic, he got bombed. He got bombed the first couple of games at the Jays, and I'm thinking, here we go. Yeah, here we go. And he's just got his act together. So that's great news.
All right, so the game continues to be 1-1 until the 9th inning, but I did want to highlight the top of the 8th, where we have our classic Toronto Blue Jays bad inning. So we have a belt double. Biggio comes on to pinch run. Chapman then grounds out, so Biggio moves to third. There is a Witt fielder's choice, and somehow Kevin Biggio takes off towards home, and of course is tagged out because what else would happen, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's the only outcome here. There's a Varsho single, so Witt then moves to third, and then Kirk strikes out. So Kevin Biggio, he had been a bit of our whipping boy for, I guess, the latter part of May, and he's kind of come back. But
Yeah.
if he doesn't, make an out, there's at least a run in this inning minimum. But it was a bit of a head scratcher, and I think this is the inning, Dustin, that was happening throughout that stretch of playing AL East teams.
Yeah, I don't know if there was a contact play on that play there. I don't want to put too much on Cavan. He probably was going on the first crack, but it didn't look good. Yeah,
No, you may be right, but the outcome was not good.
Yeah, I mean, they pulled this win out, in the end, and this is, like you said, the kind of game that they've been playing over that stretch in May against AL East, that they just, it, a lot of games were in their grasp, were definitely winnable games, and they just couldn't pull it out. These kinds of innings happened all the time during that stretch, and they were able to get her done and get one in the ninth, as we'll see.
Yeah, it was just a more base running blunders, right? Like, have you ever seen the Jays make so many base running, like, bonehead plays than this last stretch? I mean, there's guys getting picked off left, right, and center, and
I think
Last
they've
year was pretty
actually,
bad.
yeah. So I think the Minnesota series. I think there was still some stuff going on, but I thought the series against the Brewers, there wasn't really many issues, and I think this series, aside of this one inning, I think was quite well played. Like they had some pretty clean games. So let's wrap this one up. So we bottom of the eighth, Nate Pearson comes on to replace Trevor Richards, and then the top of the ninth is kind of where everything happens in this game. We have a George Springer single. He promptly steals second base on the third pitch at the next at bat. Bo unfortunately strikes out, and then following that, while Vladdy's at the plate, John Schneider gets thrown out of the game, arguing strikes. Balls and strikes.
That was
Well, he had to. Did you
Well,
see how far out that one was?
Yeah, it was. I actually think one of the themes of this series was the very poor umpiring.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. Oh,
that's one of the worst misses I've ever seen. I don't know. I can't remember one that bad. It was almost on the ground, and
they have a
strike.
There's a website or something where they rate these umpires after every game, and I didn't look at it on that one. I looked at one the other day on the Jays, and it was bad. But I'm not sure who the ump was there, but that was awful. No wonder he got tossed. We had to argue that one.
Yeah, I feel like there was a bump in a set, and like Schneider's like, well, let's do this. It was like a John Gibbons moment, except without all the theatrics, right?
True enough. Yeah, sometimes you just gotta, get tossed.
So he got tossed out, and then did Romano get the save again, or?
So Swanson eventually comes on to get the save. Prior to that, Vladdy hits a double down the left field line, which Springer scores on, bringing the game to 2-1. Swanson does come on to replace Pearson, and he does get the save in the game. Our winning pitcher, Nate Pearson, who's now 2-0, a 1.59 ERA. Our losing pitcher, David Robertson. Our main man, Jose Barrios, gets a no decision in this one, unfortunately, but he's 5-4. He improves his ERA to 3.66 and his WHIP to 1.25.
Yeah, a little bit of I don't know if it's redemption, but at least I think Vladdy needed that. I think he probably puts a lot of pressure on himself. At least it seems like that when, he's striking out, or, you see him sort of sulking in the dugout after a really bad,
Yeah.
playoffs and that kind of thing. Like, he probably really wants to win, and he really wants to win, I think, with this group of guys. And so it's good to see him kind of be the hero, at least for this game, even though that was probably an emergency hack. I don't know
It
how.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, he was just trying to stay alive there, and
You're
it
right. That's
squeaked.
exactly what I thought. I think it was a changeup or something, and he kind of just held back and just, yeah, it was in a excuse me kind of swing, and
Yeah,
it just worked out. But
Well, I was actually surprised that if you looked at that play, I was surprised that the third baseman wasn't closer to the line.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know if
me
you guys
neither.
noticed that,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like,
that's right. Yeah, I
the
thought,
kind of no doubles defense or whatever.
yeah,
Like I was a bit puzzled on that one,
yeah,
but
because that,
I'll
yeah,
take
he
it.
dove quite a bit, but he still couldn't get over to the line. You know what I mean? He was quite a way
Mhm.
off. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, definitely. But and Swanson, I mean, he was fantastic. He looked electric. That last pitch to end the game, that was vicious pitch. It just, I, you know, nobody's hitting that one. Uh,
He's an ice cold killer.
yeah,
Yeah, I love Swanson. Yeah,
yeah, just he's got some
he
really good stuff. There was a lot of movement on that last pitch, and the hitter was just completely fooled. So, um, yeah, I mean, he's obviously the second best guy right now in the bullpen. I mean, at the back end there, right? Like, I mean,
yeah.
he's better. He's got better stuff than Yimmy, I think. So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
let's not talk about Jimmy. He's not a
Yeah.
good. So I have
Well,
now he's had a lot of
uh,
appearances, but I'm
yeah,
not been happy with him.
yeah,
yeah, Eric Swanson is knocking on Romano's door there. I mean,
yeah.
I wouldn't swap them yet. Romano hasn't done
No,
anything to lose the job, but you know, if
no,
if
but if
he
Romano got hurt, let's say,
yeah, if he got
I mean,
hurt, or if he just kind of loses it for a little bit there, I think we got somebody that can close games.
yeah,
Well, what I think gives us, like I think it's one of those good problems to have. So you have, Jordan Romano on the back end. He's going to come in the ninth inning when there's a game within 3 runs. But what you have is, another capable closer that you can just bring in whenever. So whenever sticky situation, you throw Eric Swanson in there. He has those, closing abilities where he can get, 3 outs in a row. In some cases strikeouts, and you can get out of that. And I think that's a really, a good situation to have in the bullpen, and
Of
especially
course.
given this bullpen I don't think it's super deep, but they do have some at the top end of it. They have some arms.
Well, sometimes the 2, 3, 4 guys are up in the eighth, and if
yeah.
Bingo.
it's just nice to have somebody that can get those guys
Well,
out.
yeah, and the other thing is, like, what if you use Romano 2 nights in a row, back-to-back games, or
Right.
Exactly.
That's
you
what
Which is
know,
what
happened here.
which is what happened. That's
yeah.
exactly why he got the save in this.
So you're
Yeah.
gonna need that extra guy that's gonna have to fill in for your closer. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, glad we got him.
Game number 3 now. Our lineup across the outfield, left to right: Witt, Varsho, and Springer. So Kiermaier gets the day off. Round the horn from third to first: Chapman, Bo, Cavan Biggio gets a start at second, and Brandon Belt is in at first. Tyler Heineman is our catcher, and our designated hitter is Vladimir Guerrero. Our pitching matchup this game, it's an all-Japanese affair. We have Yusei Kikuchi versus Kodai Senga. Kikuchi is 6-2 with a 4.47 ERA and a 1.40 WHIP. First pitch in this one by Senga is at 1:40 p.m. And the Jays get this one underway in terms of offense in the top of the second. We have a Chapman walk, a Varsho single, which pushes Chapman to third. And then Whit Merrifield steps up and hits a 2 RBI double, scoring Matt Chapman and Varsho. That double was on a 2-1 count. Nice little piece of hitting by Whit. And that inning ends 2-0.
Yeah, I think it's hard not to like what Whit Merrifield does, on the field. I think, the 2-hit Whit, as you said, he's I don't know, a little spark plug out there. I think he kind of kicked this game off on a good note, and I think the whole offense followed suit. That's what I think happened.
All right, so top of the third now. We have a Vladimir Guerrero solo home run to left field. This was a frozen rope, and he didn't waste any time. That was the first pitch, and he took a nice cut at that.
I think he kind of, I don't know if yesterday's or the game, yesterday's game, gave him some confidence, or just, he's just seems to be turning it around. I think he's just finding his rhythm. He's took a lot of a good hacks at the balls, and I watched the clip of this one earlier, and it just, he just put a really good swing on that for sure. He looks like he's coming out of it, whatever funk he's been in.
Yeah, well, I was surprised to, find out like Bichette is ahead of him in home runs. You know what I mean? Like, what was that? Vladdy's ninth? Is that right? Like, I thought I heard it was his ninth. And, for him to be behind Bo, it just doesn't seem right in the universe. Like, so I don't know.
Well,
it was good to see.
He hasn't hit a home run at home yet this year. Every single one of his home runs has been on the road.
Yeah.
So if, take how many home run, like how many games they played at home.
That's hard to believe.
It is, but it is true. So
yeah.
I think there's something. He's got some kind of hitch in his swing, or his timing's off, or something. I heard. I think I was listening to the Fan. It was the Barker Show or whatever on one afternoon. Yeah, and they were just talking about how Guerrero, I think, flew in his uncle or something, or he's just calling in everybody that he can think of to come in and have a look at his swing and just figure out what's wrong, because I think he feels a little bit off and he just can't figure it out. That's kind of what they were saying.
Yeah.
So, but today's game, it looked like whatever it is, it's been working, and he put a lot of good swings on the ball here.
Yeah.
All right. Following that, Matt Chapman steps up the plate and doubles. Varsho then walks. And there's a bit of a crazy set of events, so I will attempt to describe as on that Varsho walk, the Mets catcher attempts to pick off Matt Chapman from second. Not really sure why this happened, but the throw gets away and ends up in center field. So Chapman gets up after sliding back into second and races around third and scores on a very close play, which the Mets challenge, but the call is upheld, and that half inning ends with the Jays up 4-0. Bottom of the third now, we have some Mets offense. They get on the board with a Tommy Pham solo home run to right field. So the bottom of the third ends 4-1. Now in the bottom of the fifth, stop me where you heard this. Tommy Pham steps up to plate and hits another solo home run, this time to left field, and the inning ends 4-2. Our first pitching change to the game, and for the Jays, happens in the bottom of the sixth, where Nasty Nate Pearson replaces Yusei Kikuchi. Kikuchi's pitching line, 5.0 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 8 Ks, and 2 home runs. This was a pretty good outing for Kikuchi. Dustin, I did want to note, though, that he is tied for the Major League lead in home runs given up with 17.
Yeah, I mean, he'll do that. I think the key for him is just not giving it the walks ahead of those home runs that leads to those crazy,
Yeah.
4 or 5 run innings that he's been prone to have. So he's been able to do that pretty effectively, and he did that tonight. I know he gave up I think 1 walk today, and
One
he
walk,
struck
yeah.
out 8. Yeah, he gave up 2 home runs, but when your team scores 6 on the day, I mean that's great.
Yeah. So he gave up. Did he give up 2 home runs, Al? Because
Yeah,
Yeah, he gave up
he
both
gave up
Tommy.
the 2 to Pham, right? It was
Yeah,
to the
basically,
fam.
yeah, it was basically Tommy Pham 2 and you know Blue Jays,
yes.
whatever. Um,
So
Four
there are more
hits.
home runs. There are more home runs, but they take place right after Kikuchi comes out of the game.
oh,
So
that's right. Yeah, because they were all
uh,
solo homers.
yeah,
Pearson
so
gave up. Pearson gave up 2. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
so Nate Pearson gives up a solo home
that's
run to
right.
Pete Alonso, and then following that, Starling Marte hits a
Yeah,
solo home run,
that's right.
and the sixth inning ends 4-4. Top of the seventh now. Vladdy has a single, and then I think the at bat and maybe swing of the game. Brandon Belt steps up and hits a 2-run home run to straightaway center field on a 1-2 count to bring the game to 6-4.
Sorry, I was just gonna say he hit the apple.
Yeah,
The big apple in center. I mean, it's an unbelievable distance to hit center field like that. So yeah, I was amazed. Belt
Yeah.
did that.
It looked like he was playing golf out there.
Yeah,
I think the ball was really low in the zone. He just kind of smacked it out with a
yeah,
really low swing. But yeah,
amazing.
he's
there's
got some
something
power.
about there. Yeah, there's something about home runs to straightaway center field, though. I don't know,
Yeah,
like when they just fly so true,
yeah,
and they're just like a pleasure to watch,
yeah,
really.
Yeah.
yeah. That was a beauty, and a big moment, right? Because they'd blown the 4-0 lead. Like you figured when it was 4-0, they've got the game in hand, and then next thing you know, it's 4-4,
Hmm.
and Belt delivered in a big moment. So
Yeah, and
Well, I
he really shut the crowd down
yeah,
too. Yeah.
yeah. At that point,
well
they
Nate
were
Pearson has been, he's been getting kind of, I guess, increasingly high leverage
yeah,
situations, and he's
right,
been quite good. So, I think as we saw with Tim Meza in the Brewers series, everyone has an off night, and he may have, but he still gets the win because of that swing by Brandon Belt.
yeah,
Now, the game does end 6-4, but we have 3 pitching changes following that Brandon Bell home run. So bottom of the 7th, Adam Simber comes on to replace Nate Pearson. Bottom of the 8th, Eric Swanson replaces Adam Simber, and then bottom of the 9th, Jordan Romano comes on to replace Eric Swanson, and he gets his 15th save. Winning pitcher, as I touched on, Nate Pearson. Losing pitcher Dominic Leone. Pearson 3-0 now, and his ERA is 2.50. Kikuchi, similarly to Barrios, does not get a decision despite having a decent game. He is 6-2. His ERA is now down to 4.40, and he lowers his WHIP to 1.37. The Jays sweep the series 3-0 and are now 7-3 in the last 10 games, and their record on the year 33-27. Looking pretty good coming home, boys.
Looking great.
uh,
One thing to note, I think, with this today's save, Jordan Romano moves tied for second in saves in the MLB right now. I think
who's
so.
number
He's
one?
having a good.
Who's number one? I think it's that Batista guy on Baltimore, maybe.
No, yeah. So Batista is who he's tied
Okay.
with 15 saves, and
Yeah.
then Emmanuel Clase
Oh,
with
Class A's.
Cleveland
Yeah,
has 19.
I see. Yeah. Um, did you notice that? That Dominic Leone. You recognize him? He pitched for the Jays. I don't know how many years ago. Not that.
2017 or something. Yeah,
Yeah, not that
2018.
long ago. Yeah, he was one of
Yeah.
those guys that was like a middle relief guy, and one of those guys they just find for 1-year contracts, that kind of thing. But
Yeah, I think he's been bouncing around quite a bit.
yeah, he's one of these guys,
The
journeyman,
classic
bounces around.
journeyman. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting when I saw him come in there, and it's the former Blue Jay. But yeah, no, you were talking about Pearson. Yeah, I think you're right, Al. He's getting more leverage, and but his fastball got tagged again today. I don't know. There's not a lot of movement maybe on it to me. It would seem kind of straight and just like a P. And I don't know. That's just a little concerning to me moving forward. That he's going to give up some home runs and some hard contact. I don't know. We'll have to see how it turns out. But
yeah, if major league hitters can hit the fastball.
Yeah.
And if you're leaving it over to the plate. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you can throw 99.
If it's straight like an arrow.
If it's a meatball,
yeah.
So well, and you really need to have another pitch to
work off that.
Like you need to have another pitch in mind where like Jordan Romano, he throws 2 pitches, but sometimes he'll just keep throwing a fastball, and they just the batters don't seem to be able to hit it because they have his splitter in his mind.
Yeah.
And that's always in the mind as well, right? And I like Nate Pearson. This is his first kind of, I guess, run of any sort of longevity with the Jays, and I imagine pitching coaches will be working with him as well on other pitches.
It gives us another good arm in the bullpen there. That so I mean, it's great to have him back.
He's been really reliable. I mean, like you said earlier, sometimes relief pitchers just have a stinker of a game. What you want to see is the next game you bounce back and get another sort of 1, 2, 3, and
well, he definitely throws hard.
Yeah, and he's been moving up that sort of leverage ladder.
All right, gentlemen. Player of the series time.
Oh boy, yeah, okay.
My player of the series is going to be Brandon Belt. I think I know he didn't have a stellar series, and I think Vladdy had a little bit of a better one, but I liked what he did this series. He went 3 for 10. He walked 3 times, a couple big hits in big spots, 2 RBIs, 2 runs. So he's had a strong May. He's really bounced back, and I think he's kind of turning into the guy that we wanted him to be in the sort of DH first base relief spot. So I like him, and I'm hoping to see a lot more from him in the summer months here.
Well, I was actually going to pick Brandon Belt too, but I will go with Vladimir Guerrero. He actually did have a very similar stat line to Brandon Belt. So Vladimir Guerrero, 2 runs, 4 hits, 2 RBIs, 2 walks, and of course 1 home run. So I think, we're not seeing vintage Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I think he definitely had a series where he responded a little bit.
Yeah, if him and Belt can sort of keep doing this, and we got Bichette doing Bichette things, man, this lineup's scary. Who's your player, Craig? You got a different one?
Well,
or you agree with us?
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. Belt's the obvious one. So that's what I
Whit Merrifield's no slouch. So he has 1 run.
He's a tremendous slouch.
4. Yeah. 1 run, 4 hits, 2 RBIs, and 2 walks in the series. So he seemed like a constant contributor.
Yeah, that's true.
This thorn in the opposition side while at the plate.
What about Chappie? How did
Chapman had a pretty quiet series. 2 runs, 1 hit, 1 walk.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, he just had that big base running play today that was
I
amazing. But
I wanted to go with George Springer, but George Springer had like
George.
donuts. He had donuts across the his stat line
Yeah.
for game number 3. So
Well, he was good in the outfield today. He made a couple. Well, he made a good catch at the end there.
mhm.
Yeah, I think generally in terms of the series, I think that it's kind of been a team series. This is the kind of series that we
Yeah,
got used to seeing early. Like in April, they had a lot of series and games like this.
like team
That
wins.
yeah, where one day it's Dalton or
Yeah,
Dalton Varsho hitting a 2-run home run to win the game, or at least to put it away. The next day it's Vladdy being the hero.
yeah,
The next day it's Belt. So that's what we
yeah,
want to see. No one guy has to feel like they have to carry the team. If
yeah,
everybody can contribute and all the pitching, we've been really lucky, with injuries. I think I heard the other day that we're the only team, Blue Jays are the only team with um, the same 5 starters
yeah,
going. Like they've only had to use 5 starters.
yeah,
They're the only
Mhm.
team that's had to do that. So they're really lucky on that front. And even the injuries on the offensive side have not been super effective. So I think it's bodes well. I know it doesn't look good after what happened in May, but I think they can kind of climb this mountain that they've built for themselves.
yeah. I think it was the Rays. The Rays like lost some starters, some key guys this year, like early on. I know they lost Jeffrey Springs, who's a really good up and coming fireballer, and I forget who else. I think they got Glasnow back, but yeah, there's a lot of teams that have lost some major starters, right? Like DeGrum's out. There's a whole bunch of them, right? So Jays
Yeah.
have been fortunate.
All right. So normally we would wrap up the episode at this point, but we brought Kreger on to talk about his trip to Minnesota. That was last
Minneapolis.
weekend.
Yeah,
Minneapolis,
yeah.
two weekends ago now.
No, it was
It was last
2
weekend.
last
series
weekend.
last
Yeah,
weekend.
Last
yeah.
weekend. So, Kreger, why don't you tell us just about this road trip, like
Yeah.
why you guys decided to go. Just give us the rundown.
Well, like my buddy King Dave and me, we do these road trips all the time to enemy stadiums, and eventually, I guess we're gonna have to cross try to get all 30 done. But we'd never been to Minnesota. We pretty much done all the East Coast, especially all the drivable ones. We've done Chicago. We haven't done Milwaukee yet, but yeah, it was just another one to cross off the list. Day one to go to Minnesota. When we looked into it, the hotels in Minnesota were cheaper than a lot of other cities that we still have to cross off. I think like we looked at Cincinnati, we looked at I think Philadelphia, some other ones, and I guess King Dave's on a little bit more of a budget than me. He liked the idea of Minnesota when he saw the hotel prices there were lower. So and and Target Field's been on my list for a while since they built it, and it's a beautiful park. So that's why we went there. It's only a 2-hour flight too, right? So Chicago's about an hour flight. It's about another hour past that, and yeah, pretty easy to get to. I don't think Porter flies out of there yet, or the Porter, but so we had to fly out of Pearson, and of course there was some delays in that, but it sure beat driving. So yeah, that was kind of why we picked out there, and yeah, an amazing stadium. I mean, if any of the listeners can get a chance to go there, I highly recommend it. It was just a beautiful, beautiful stadium, and for see, the thing is, people say, well, the Jays can't have an outdoor stadium with, without a dome, without a roof, right? It just won't work in April, and it won't work in maybe October, right? If they get that far. But Minnesota proves that it can be done because they don't have a roof, and if you look on a map, it's more north than
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Toronto by by quite a little bit. And sorry, that's just my cat. He wants to chirp in here
Oh,
too.
that's your cat?
Yeah, it's my
I thought
cat.
it was
So
Dustin's cat.
no, it's my cat. So sorry about it. Apologize for
No,
that.
no worries.
But yeah, no. So they do it. They do it, and it's an outdoor stadium. So when I saw that, I think to myself, why can't the Jays do it? I mean, they prove it can be done. But yeah, excellent road trip, excellent stadium. Tickets were, I don't know, I guess they're a little pricey still. I paid cost, and it was about, I think I paid $40 US for fourth row left field, in the bleachers there, left field, fourth row under the upper deck. It was an excellent spot. The fans out there were fantastic. You can yell and scream and shout out there. It's kind of like you're out in the cornfield there. Nobody, security doesn't bother you. So I like sitting in left field in most stadiums because they don't bother you out there. If you're sitting behind the plate or third base, you got to mind your P's and Q's a little more. But so yeah, I think, and then there's a fantastic spot they had in right field. Al, if you saw the pictures I sent you,
I did.
I think they call it the overlook, and it's this really weird section that in right field that hangs over the field to some degree, and you're quite a bit up. Like it's not down at field level; it's up another quite a bit. It's kind of like the 200 level, I guess,
Mhm.
at the dome. But yeah, that was a great spot to watch a game. But those tickets were more expensive. I think they were closer to $70 US. So
70.
not
You
cheap.
gotta pay that extra bit to be 3 more feet on the field, right?
Yeah, and we were in row one, and the remarkable thing is we were able to buy those tickets like I didn't buy them like when the tickets went on sale for the season. You know what I mean? Like it was like, I don't know, month, 2 months after the tickets were on sale, and I'm looking at the tickets and I see a pair there in row one on that overlook spot. And I thought, man, this is a fantastic place for a banner to hang there, which we did. And we had the "and there she goes" banner there, and
Saw it
we
on
made
TV.
oh yeah, we made it on Sportsnet. It's on the YouTube there and all that.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, but just a fantastic, and of course, Springer was just down below us, and you could jib a jab, yell stuff at him, and he'd give you the wave, and he tossed a couple of balls up to the kids, and yeah, I love those outfield spots. That King Dave, that's me. That's where we go. We go generally left field, but in this case, we went to right field. We only went to right field for the one game. We sat in the left field the other two, but it's a great city. It's there was nobody in the city. I mean, downtown, like nobody lives there. It's like it just looked like you could shoot a cannon off downtown and the main streets downtown and not hit anybody. It was unbelievable, like the whole weekend.
Really?
I mean, it was Memorial Day weekend, so I don't know how much fun
Yeah.
they did into it, but it's
Everyone's out
nowhere
at
near.
their
Yeah,
everyone's out at their cabins or whatever they do. I'm
yeah,
sure
but
they do that kind of.
even Toronto, there would have been a million more people down there, like on a
Yeah,
on
true
a
enough.
on a long weekend, and like there it was like a ghost town because. And I asked the locals, and they said, "Well, nobody really lives downtown, and people just come into the office buildings and stuff to work, and so, and a lot of those people after COVID, they don't, they work from home and stuff, so really quiet city, and safe enough and clean. Um, yeah, we saw a lot of homeless and drug addicts and stuff downtown. There's definitely a problem in a certain area, which is where the little train tram takes you to the ballpark. They have this really cool tram that downtown called the Blue Line. $2, $2, and you can go like a whole pile of stops, and it takes you right to the front door of Target Field. It's amazing. Like every day we
Wow.
just got on that thing. $2 down there drops you off right at the front door. Like you wouldn't like not the Jays. You got to get off of Union, and it's quite a walk, right?
Yeah, you gotta walk
So
10
for a fat
minutes.
guy like
Yeah.
me, these guys dropped you right off at the door. I couldn't believe it. It was fantastic.
Nice.
So good transit. Yeah, and
You
yeah.
said good food too.
Oh, the food at the ballpark, but that's just typical of America. I mean, you go like on all our road trips, like the food is substantially better at the ballparks than at the Sky Dome. And I know they've, I don't know how much they've improved it this season. I haven't been down there. We're going in a couple of weeks, but the food in America, like all these parks we've been to, like Cleveland, Baltimore, New York, Chicago, like you name it. Yeah, it's just a better quality. A lot of time they hire established restaurants in the city that are real good. I don't know what would be like in Toronto, like imagine like a really good restaurant, like
The Real Jerk.
huh? Yeah, like the
The
Real
Real
Jerk. Yeah, or
Yeah.
maybe like in the East End, they got that place, the Burger Priest, that's
Yeah,
really popular.
yeah.
Like what they do is they take a company like that and they say, you just open up a kiosk like in the stadium, like so like it's not like they're using some catering company. They actually use successful places. Pittsburgh was another one like that. Excellent food. So yeah, I enjoyed well, you know me, Al. I enjoyed the food there, and
Yeah, you couldn't, like, every 10 minutes I was getting
yeah.
a picture with
Oh my
like a
God.
hot dog and then
Oh,
this and
I
that.
didn't. I know.
I was like, come on,
I
man,
didn't
like
eat.
you're making me hungry here.
Well, I know I didn't even eat breakfast that day because I knew like I'm gonna eat ballpark food and I wanted to test out a bunch of stuff. So I pretty much fasted before going there so I could. I wanted to try the nachos, the hot dogs, all the other stuff. Did you
What
see
was the
those?
prices like?
Oh, they're standard. I didn't even look. To tell you the truth, I when I saw some of that stuff, I would have paid anything for it. So like those sliders. Did you see those sliders? I sent you these like little
Yes.
hamburgers with. They had like this special beer mustard sauce, so they had me right there. Beer mustard sauce. That's that yellow sauce you saw on there in the picture with some peppercorns or something. It was fantastic, and candied bacon. I don't know what candied
Jesus.
bacon is,
Oof.
but that's what it said was on there.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, and everybody we met, like you saw on TV, that there was a million Jays fans. There was actually,
Yeah.
maybe more Jays fans than Twins fans. Like, was that much?
Really?
Yeah, there was a lot. Like, I didn't expect that kind of sort of travel. I know the Jays are, travel well. We're the best in the league, probably, because we got a whole country behind us. But yeah, I thought, well, out in Minnesota, who's going to go from Toronto? And I was kind
Well,
of right.
you got the peg, right? You got
Yeah.
Winnipeg.
Yes, and that's exactly what happened. And I didn't realize it till we got there. And every time we ran into Blue Jay fans around the city wearing their shirts and in the hotels and everything, everybody was from Manitoba. Almost everybody. And a large chunk of them were from Winnipeg. We did meet some people from Saskatchewan. I met these two old ladies that were having trouble with the debit machine in there because King Dave was having problems with it too, and they were from Humboldt, Saskatchewan, where that tragedy happened. And
Yeah.
I didn't ask them. I didn't ask them if they flew, but I bet you they didn't. And that was an enormous drive. And we met a lot of people from Northern Ontario, like Thunder Bay, Fort Francis. And if you look on the map, they just come around Superior there, and it's the closest. We met one guy in our row, this old guy and his wife, and they'd been coming to Minnesota from Thunder Bay since the 60s, like back when it was the Metrodome. You know what I mean? Back before the Blue Jays existed, this guy said, like,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like he was a baseball fan, him and his wife, and so they drive from Thunder Bay to Minnesota, a few times a year to watch baseball because that was the closest baseball there was to Northern Ontario, and it's still a lot closer than coming to Toronto, right? So, yeah, a lot of people from Manitoba, Northern Ontario there. So, I mean, yeah, so that was interesting, and I told you they got a AAA team in town too. That's just recent. There, we never ended up making it over. We were going to try to do a doubleheader one day on the Saturday and go from the Jays game over across town. It's over in across the river in Minneapolis. Sorry, Minneapolis. It was on the other side. It was in St. Paul. But Bill Murray from Caddyshack and everything else, apparently he bought that team and brought it there. And he's got all kinds of kooky gimmicks and things that, he's got, fun things. He's got,
I can only imagine.
You could,
Like I can only imagine the quirks and things that
you wouldn't
Bill
believe it.
Murray has going on.
Yeah. The locals were telling me about it, and I never made it over. And they said he's got all kinds of crazy like gimmicks going on through the game, and one of them is like, well, he had like I think he had a couple of dogs as ball boys. He had a couple of dogs that chased down retrieve the balls along the foul lines and stuff. But just I'd have to look into it. But it sounded like all the locals said it's a fantastic time over there, and cheap too, And but unfortunately, being our age, we were out in the sun there so much, and we were just exhausted after that game that day, and just wanted to go back to the hotel room. And of course, Dave wanted to go to the Regal Beagle at the lobby bar there at the bottom of the hotel and have some drinks. So, and we never made it to the AAA, but something for the future. But yeah, it's about it. Good time, solid. I want to go back. Like if anybody wants to go to Minnesota next year or whenever we're back there, I think it might be maybe 2 years until we're back there with the balanced schedule. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, every other year.
Yeah.
Every other year. Yeah.
You guys ever want to go there or King Dave or whatever? Like he loved it too. So, and he's not always easy to please. So, it's definitely somewhere I'd go back 100%. Yeah.
Sounds like a great time.
Oh,
I'd ask you some questions, but every question I could think of, you answered it in your conversation. So, sounds great, man.
How were you guys received by the local Twins fans?
We were received very well, and normally we're not, especially with Dave and Al. You can speak to how Dave, behaves.
He wears out his welcome.
He can wear out his welcome really easy, and he gets under the local yokel skin sometimes. And like in Cleveland, some guy wanted to punch him in the face and said, he was coming down to punch him out, and security had to throw the guy out. And
Standard Cleveland.
I thought we were getting punched out for sure. And then it turned out there was some Ontario provincial policemen sitting in the row next to us, and they were, of course, off duty, and no one knew they were cops. And they told me that if that guy had to come down and punch you guys like he said he was going to do, we were gonna tackle him. We would have looked after him. So, but Cleveland was rough. We got bad receptions there. Pittsburgh was pretty good. Baltimore, not bad, but not good either. Yeah, this was the best. This one was the best out of a lot of places we've been. I don't know why. I don't know why. I
think that area is like the most Canadian that the U.S. gets.
Yeah. You're right. It's a very liberal city, like Toronto. Like as far as America goes, it's one of the more liberal cities. It's sort of a Democrat-controlled area, I think, in recent times. It's not Trump territory.
No.
So, they're more tolerant. Let's put it that way. For things that we're tolerant about here, like they're going to be. They do a big LGBTQ Pride Night thing there. They've been doing that for years. Of course, that's controversial with certain players and blah 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 blah. But I mean, if you're used to Toronto, you're not like a fish out of water in this place. You know what I'm saying? Whereas, the deep South, that's another story, right?
I kind of figured that, Minnesota would be, basically just Canada, and people are pretty easygoing and whatnot.
I think Dustin's right.
The one thing you said about the city, like it seems like some American cities.
You're
like
right.
I have
I know what you're gonna say.
I have family in Syracuse.
Yeah.
And you walk around Syracuse, you're like, oh, it's like decent town, all this, and then it hits 9:00 and there's nobody because nobody lives in the city.
Yeah.
Everybody, like people will work in it, but everybody lives in the suburbs.
It's not
and
like
so
Toronto.
There's nobody there, so you don't get that kind of, later night foot traffic where Toronto condos and all kinds of other stuff going on.
Toronto's like alive, like at night all the time, and in the daytime too, right? Like, there's a lot of people live downtown. There's just action all the time downtown Toronto. And I think you're right. It's not just Minnesota. Like it's a lot
certain
of
cities.
Yeah, and it's got certain smaller ones. Like we can exclude New York and Chicago and LA and stuff, but a lot of these medium-sized cities. And again, like after COVID too, and maybe there's more people working from home still. I'm not sure, but it was like Deadsville all the time, like daytime, nighttime, didn't matter. Incredible, like incredibly quiet.
Let's wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me.
You're welcome anytime, buddy.
You have been listening to Station to Station. We will be back on Friday to discuss the 4-game home series versus the Houston Astros. If you enjoyed this episode, we ask that you share it with one friend you think may enjoy it as well. Thanks for listening, and until next time.